Hey, what's up, guys? It's Stax, and I got Jude here with me. Say what's up, Jude.
Yep. What's up?
And we're gonna be giving y'all our season 7 power rankings. We're not gonna go too in depth with each of these teams. Um, just kind of giving like a quick 2-3 minute like overview of each one, and then give a ranking. And then at the end, we're gonna rank all the teams based on averages of our player rankings. So,
Yeah. These are objectively correct, so like definitely not our opinions. So if you're mad about it, that's your problem.
exactly, yeah. Go talk to Seph about it or something. All right, red draft.
Yeah. Let's go.
All right, first player in the red draft. We got confused. I'm gonna let you start off this one.
Okay, so Confused started off with Goldingo, which I think he's like tried to draft like for 5 seasons in a row, so he finally got it. Honestly, this draft looks really balanced to me. Like he's got plenty of bulk. He's got like so many options. It's super versatile with Klefki, with Quaquaval, with Clefable, of course. I
Hmm.
think it's pretty solid. I don't know. What do you think about it?
I also think it's really solid. I think so. What I've noticed with Goldingo teams in Reg H draft is that you kind of really have to be cognizant of Goldingo's weaknesses. Like we've seen teams that have been very weak to Heat Wave and then they just become unsuccessful because, even if you have like redirection, it's a problem when you can't like stop the Heat Wave from hitting Gold. But I think this team
Yeah,
covers really well for
yeah. You
Gold's
can't redirect
weaknesses.
Terrifire Heatwave.
Exactly. But I think this
Yeah, for
team
sure.
definitely covers Goldingo's weaknesses really well. It's just the one biggest problem to me is that the speed control is lacking a bit. Like you have Prankster T-Wave from Klefki, you have Icy Wind from Weavile, and there is Trick Room from
Yeah,
Duosion and Tailwind from Dragonite.
yeah.
But outside of that,
Honestly,
it's
yeah. It's kind of missing. It's completely missing like Tailwind for me. Like you have it on D Night, but you don't want to run Tailwind on D Night every week.
right.
Um, And I'd say like the other big weakness I'm seeing is like into electric types in general. Like I feel like Confused way of hitting electric types is super restricted. Plus they're immune to the T wave speed
Yeah.
control from Klefki.
Hmm.
So I think he's going to be struggling to all those electric types, not having a ground type or like super good ground coverage
Yeah,
on most ones.
I think so too.
So yeah,
I will say I really like the Terra Captain Superior because I think like that kind of covers for the ground types that give Golden Go problems. I think it's gonna be really good into those. Um, but overall, like yeah, this team definitely has some weaknesses. Would love to see the speed control get patched up. I gave this team an 8 out of 10.
I also gave this team an 8.
Okay.
I was on the fence, but at the same time, it's like I was gonna give it like a 7.5, but really like the versatility of loads of the mons here really sold me on it being
Yeah.
a little bit higher than that.
He's definitely got a lot of the
But yeah,
rules like locked down, like fake out, redirection, intimidate, for sure.
yeah, for sure.
All right,
Okay,
moving on to
let's go
Carney.
ahead with Carney.
All right, so Carney drafted uh like an amazing Fairy Dragon Steel Core with his first three picks. Obviously Metagross, Primarina, and Hydreigon. Hydreigon seems to be the best Terra Captain. That's kind of the consensus that,
Oh
we've
yeah,
noticed.
easily I think. Yeah,
And then there's also Basculegion and Glamora. So like this team, it goes all out on the offensive like high tier picks and then supports it with Pokemon like Illumise, Electivire for redirection, Ambipom for fake out, Tauros for intimidate. I don't really understand Cryogonal or Camerupt, especially when there's no Trick Room on this team. I really don't get Camerupt, but I think overall this
yeah,
team is very, very strong, very offensive.
yeah. Also, yeah, it's got great burst damage. Honestly, like
Yeah.
all of Glimora, Metagross, Primarina, Hydreigon, and Basculation can just blow something up. Sceptile is also pretty fun. I can see like loads of options he has with that. Like he can do pledges with Primarina. He can do like Dragon Cheer with Hydreigon if he wants to, and a couple of other things.
Hmm.
Like maybe I don't know if he has. Yeah, he has like Aquajet into weakness policy, Terrifier, Sceptile or something. But I don't know if Carney would do something like that.
Maybe one week.
For sure. like you mentioned it, he doesn't have Trick Room, and I think his options into like opposing Trick Room are quite limited.
Yeah.
Because camera up is like probably never coming. Not gonna lie. So that's like the main issue I'm seeing with Carney's draft, but it's really solid. Like this is an absolute menace of a draft.
Yeah, my biggest knock on this draft is like is also lack of trick room setting or reversal because I think like a lot of his offensive mons, while they are very strong, they do have like middling speed tiers. I'm talking like Metagross, Primarina, and Basculegion. Like, yeah, you can run Rain Dance or Scarf Basculegion, whatever. Um, but I think for Metagross, Primarina, like generally speaking, if your opponent can counter Tailwind, then they're not going to have the speed advantage. So I think that is a area of concern. But for the most part, I think very solid draft. And this team is
Yeah,
super bulky, so it may not even matter, to be honest. I
yeah.
get
With the bulk, it doesn't rely on Illumise as much, so which is nice.
I gave this team an
But yeah,
8 as well.
I gave it a 9. I believe in also the versatility of this. I think it's really strong.
Yeah,
Carney's going to pilot it really well.
fair enough. All right, let's move on to BHanny. I'm gonna let you start with this one because I think you kind of saw the vision with this draft before I did.
I oh yeah, I really like this draft. Honestly, I feel like starting off with the double A tier supports kind of sets you up to go for a different kind of draft plan where like you're really relying on your Terra captains and like lower tiers actually putting in work. And the way BHanny has done that in this case, I think is a masterclass on how to do it. He's got so many options. That serial edge is gonna easily be on the kills board, like for the kill leader. I can see that putting in tons of work. He's got screens, he's got follow me, redirection, priority blocking, he's got fake out, he's got Gravnosis with Yanmega, Sableye. And then you realize that he also has like a Gudra Hisui. It's like
Yeah,
it was enough with everything else, but like suddenly you've got that huge threat. So yeah, this is honestly I'm gonna call it out right now. It's probably my favorite draft that we have this season.
yeah.
So yeah, I would have drafted Sableye as well. That got sniped first round.
I love what Yanmega does for this team. I think Yanmega, like I don't know if it's been drafted before in our Reg H drafts, but dude, like on this team, like yeah, it can provide the prankster gravity and then like the speed boost hypnosis and then it's just like fast tailwind as well. And then it's also hits like pretty strong. Like low key, even its air slashes. Like I've used Yon Mega and Regage before. It's pretty good. Like this team has a mix of setup threats in Ledge and Gujar, like you said, and then immediate offense in Mamoswine, Gardevoir, and then sometimes Mousehold. Um,
Yeah,
my one problem with this draft is I don't really get the Knuckle Stack pick because I think it's kind of like never going to be brought when you have Gujar Hisui, which does the same thing but is more bulky. But outside
yeah,
of that, yeah, like this team has every support it could possibly need. It's going to be super bulky and strong and very tough to face.
yeah. You can't really complain too much about the D tiers, but Knucklestack and Phalanx are two ones that really benefit from Terra,
Yeah.
and they just don't have access to it, which I totally get because Serial and Ampharos are also really good Terra captains.
Well, I definitely didn't
The
let
one thing I'll knock,
go
yeah,
ahead. No, go ahead.
yeah, the one thing I'll knock and say it could kind of improve there is that it has a pretty big fairy weakness. I feel like your resistances are. It's really just Serial Edge, and you can bait Terra out of it kind of easily.
Yeah, that's fair.
And there is no other resist. So I feel like this is a matchup where you just bring your Specs Dazzling Gleams, Specs Moonblasts, and hope for the best.
That is fair. Well, I didn't let the Knucklestack pick influence my rating. I gave this is my only 10, actually.
Oh, I give it a 9 because I feel like the fairy weakness is it's really the only thing that's pulling me back from a 10.
Yeah, which is fair. All right. We are on to my draft. I
Audio.
guess I guess I'll go first. I guess.
Yeah, you're S out of 10, so I don't know what that means. Is that a 5?
Oh, this was done before. Okay, hold on, guys. No, no, I did that as a joke, but so okay, you'll notice that my team is very similar to my team last season, where I have the overlap of Paul, Ursaluna, Grafai, Sylveon, and Kilowattrel. Um, and I kind of upgraded Lucario from Lucario to Scizor, Hitmontop, which I think gives me a lot more versatility in that in two Pokemon where I have like Intimidate, Fake Out now, and then Terra Steel, Bullet Punch. Like I still have the strong Steel priority, um, and fighting coverage, which really helps out Dragapult and Sylveon. Um, I added Typhlosion. I'm not like it was kind of like a hedge because I was trying to get Volcarona, but in case I got sniped, I needed like a decent fire type that could do something. So Typhlosion's there. I also don't like the redirection on this team. I think that was a downgrade, but I think in basically every other way, this team improved over last season. So yeah,
Yeah, honestly, that core with Dragapult, Ursaluna, Sylveon, Scizor, or just whatever steel type, is offensively and defensively like such a huge threat. And this time you actually got Trevenant, so
I did.
we'll have to see how that works out.
Didn't get sniped for me this time.
Yeah. What I'll say, I think I already told you in private, but you are kind of missing some roll compression because yeah, I know you were going for Volcarona and that let you like made you split like that into Typhlosion and Ferret. I feel like that kind of hurts the draft a bit because
Yeah.
Typhlosion feels a little out of place and it's going to be hard to justify bringing Ferret to a match. Um, Skarmory is okay. I guess it's another steel type. It's nothing too amazing. Like it's no Corviknight, but it's all right. Um, honestly, I'm gonna kind of lowball it because I want you to prove me wrong. I gave you a 7.
What? Damn, that's crazy,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah. You gotta prove me wrong though.
Okay, I'm very high on my own draft. I might be a bit biased here, but I gave it a 9.5, not a 95.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I really like this team. Like I think like if you look at my team last season and this season, I think it's just an improvement. Um, and I went.
I think your team last season was pretty good as well. I think.
It was really good, but I think this team is better. And dude, I'm just saying, like, I'm higher on this
Yeah,
team going into this season than I was on that team. So yeah,
true.
and
I guess you're gonna prove me wrong.
I will. All right, on to
So
you.
next up is myself. Yeah, so I went for Ursaluna. I've been wanting to pick up Ursaluna Blood Moon for like a couple seasons as well. And I just went for like everything that supports it. I went for Tailwind with Talonflame, Trick Room with Farigiraf, Screens with Ninetales, and then kind of a bunch of stuff that covers Ursaluna's weaknesses and also takes advantage of like the same like Tailwind, Trick Room, and Veil support. I'm pretty happy with my draft. I'd say I have some weaknesses. I feel like it isn't too versatile, which I might get bored of like building with the team if I'm making the same sets every week. And I feel like some of my Terra captains aren't the best. My D tiers aren't the best, but the like say top 8 months are really strong in my opinion. So, what do you think, Stax?
Yeah, I kind of echoed a lot of those sentiments you just said, where I think your offensive type synergies are really, really solid. I think you support Ursaluna extremely well as well, where you have like among the best Tailwind in the game, and I think probably the best Trick Room in the game as well. Or among the best Trick Room as well. Priority blocking is nice in general. You have good redirection. I think pretty good offensive, like I said, pretty good offensive capabilities. The lack of a good B tier captain lowers your ceiling a little bit for me because I'm not really that high on Haxorus, and I think that there are like plenty of broken or like better tools as Terra captains in B tier, but um, Electabuzz is not that great as a Terra captain, and what's your other B tier Araquanid? It would
Yeah,
be okay.
it Yeah, like the only Terra Araquanid would want is water, so
Yeah.
it's kind of whatever.
And then yeah, just you could have gotten more value from your B tiers. I think these are pretty matchup dependent. Like as sorry, not B tiers, D tiers. As D tiers should be, but it's just like I don't know if or when you're gonna bring some of these, like specifically Haunter and Cloth. I don't really see it. But um really good draft overall. I gave it an 8.
I might be biased, but I gave myself an 8.5. Because I know how to pilot this team, and I'm confident I can put some work in.
Yeah, for sure.
So no, that's good.
All right. Are we ready to move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's go.
All right, next one is
It's
Tarkington.
Tarkington. Yeah.
Okay, so Tarkington has like a really solid, like bulky balance core, and it's just gonna be like pretty hard to break through this team, I feel, when you have Instant Amoonguss Gyarados, that's double intimidate, spore redirection, and fake out. Bronzong is a good trick room setter, Florges is a pretty decent C tier fairy type. Baxcalibur is like looks like the main offense on this team, and it's also supported by Morgrim screens. Um,
Yeah.
so I think all of those Pokemon are really, really good. I don't love basically any of the other picks on this team. And
Damn. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna say like it is super slow paced. I
mhm,
feel like the only thing that actually does immediate damage is like the Baxcalibur and maybe the Golem if it terrestrializes. So that's kind of a hindrance in my opinion. And then the speed tiers are really not the best. Like
yeah,
when if Baxcalibur is your fastest mon, really what that means is that everything can afford to run adamant or run bulk into you. So like
yes.
sure you're bulky, but like the teams you're going to be facing into are almost just as bulky because you're letting them be
There
that
is
bulky.
there is also no Tailwind on this team. So like you can run Trick Room every week if you want to, but like when your main offense is Baxcalibur at 87, like it's not that difficult to underspeed that, or Gyarados at 81. Like Gyarados typically wants to be setting DD, and like yeah, it can maybe boost past speeds of some Pokemon, but they can also just set Tailwind on you, and you can't really do anything about it. Um, I also think that like I don't really understand the Empoleon pick either. Like you already have like a good water type and a good steel type and good like
Yeah,
your team is like already pretty bulky offensively. Like I just don't see the value there. Um like
yeah.
that could
I
have
guess it's
been
like competitive is the idea. I don't know.
I guess so, but that I feel like that could have been like a fast tailwind setter or something along those lines. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in B tier, surely there's something good enough that can replace it.
Yeah,
I mean, with a couple trades, honestly, this team can become like a lot better.
completely agree.
Um, yeah, I'll say that his Trick Room mode also like I'm not too threatened by his Trick Room sweepers.
Yeah.
It feels like it's Golem and Donphan, and anything like above that, people are gonna have their own like slower mons. So you're not actually taking like full advantage of Trick Room. So it's not like this is some sort of hard Trick Room / balance team. I don't know. It feels too middling. Like it definitely needs a higher speed ceiling.
I agree. I think it is like close though. It's just missing a couple key elements. I gave it a 7, like you did actually.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
All right, cool. Splatty is next. You want to start this one?
Splatty Daddy. Yeah, so Splatty drafted Grimmsnarl Sinistra, which is honestly enough.
Yeah.
We know he's going to pilot this well, but I guess we have to judge it as the draft, and not just as how he's going to pilot it. Uh, like it's very slow paced. It feels like Grimmsnarl Sinistra are coming to every match, and it's just what he chooses to be the carry for that week. Is it going to be like bulk up? Go-Goat, or is it going to be Lapras, or is it going to be Volcarona, or is it going to be Komao?
Yeah.
It feels a little one-dimensional, but I know it's going to work, and I know Splatty's going to pilot it well. But yeah, I just think Splatty can pilot bad drafts, and I don't think this is a good like overall draft. I feel like it's gonna struggle into heavy offense. I don't like that his Volcarona and Komodo both have 4 times weaknesses to spread moves in Rock Slide and Dazzling Gleam, which he just can't protect from in any way.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's going to be facing that every week, and it's going to make it hard on him. Also, not having Terra on Gastrodon really surprised me, because I feel like that is a very good Terra captain, like B tier Terra captain. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
So I see what you're saying with like the 4x weaknesses, but I think like he has dual screens, he has hospitality, and he has also like a bunch of incredible switch-ins for those moves. So I'm not as worried about that because I think it's probably fine. Um, I would say that the fact that his redirection is Rage Powder from both Sinistra and does Sinistra get Rage Powder or is that just Volcarona?
No, it gets Rage Powder.
It
Yeah.
gets Rage Powder, okay. I would say that's a little bit weird, but I still think this is a incredible draft. And yeah, like I think he's gonna pilot it super well as he typically does. Um, like you said, like Grim Sinistra is disgusting. Also has Tinkaton Fake Out, has Weird Ear Intimidate. I would say the only pick on this team that I don't fully understand is the Glalie. I don't really know what that does, but
Oh yeah, that Glalie gonna set up sub and Moody and behind screens. It's
oh,
gonna
I
be
see.
disgusting, and then just like sheer cold everything.
Okay, well that is a meme that I don't respect. So I really like this
Yeah,
team, but I gave it an 8.5 on the out of 10.
you know, I can give this whatever I want, and Splatty is still gonna go 8-0. So I gave it a 6.
Damn, dude. That's
Yeah.
low. That's even lower than me. I'm just kidding.
No, but it just doesn't matter. Splatty's gonna pilot it well. So
Yeah. All right. We can move on to Seph. Um, so okay, Seph has a really solid draft across the board. I think we both mentioned before that like all the individual mons are really good. Like there's not a bad Pokemon here. The Psy spam mode is nice. You have Indeedee, Gallade, and Armarouge. And then you also have
mm,
like Whimsicott, Garchomp. Corviknight is a good Pokemon. Infernape I think is pretty good fake out. Um, so yeah, pretty good supports. Actually very good supports. Um, I think Seph kind of needs to be able to ensure that he dominates the speed. Where like, typically Gallade and Armarouge are run on Trick Room teams. But I don't necessarily love his Trick Room mode. Like I don't think the speeds are that great for Trick Room. Because Gallade is 80, Armarouge is 75, Luxray is 70, and then Crawdon
yeah, I mean,
is
yeah, there
okay.
is also the Avalugg and the Crodont, but yeah.
Yeah, but I feel Avalugg take like the Iron Defense body press at least takes some time to set up, so it's not typically like the best use of Trick Room, I would say. Um, I like Fungus on this team, um, but I can't put my finger on it, right? But like this team is, I feel like it's missing something. I can't put my finger on it. What do you think about it?
I think okay, so yeah, he has good speed tiers. He has good speed control, both Tailwind from Whimsicott and Trick Room from Indeedee. There's good damage like burst from Gallade and Armouge and all that. What I'll say is that I think his physical special spread is a little lacking because like his only special attackers feel like Duraludon and Armouge, unless you're running like special Infernape, I guess.
Mhm.
And like the same tools you're going to use to beat Duraludon are going to work into Armouge, like Snarl and whatever ground coverage you want to bring
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
like knockoff. Um, so I feel like it is kind of easy-ish to prep for, but he has the damage to make it like not matter that much. Also, like I like Fungus, but I like Fungus next to Duraludon, and they can't both run Eviolite at the same time. So that's a little awkward. Where Seph kind of wants to run like an AV Duraludon, but that's just being suboptimal. yeah, I don't know. There's a little bit of anti-synergy with the Whimsicott and the Psychic Train and the Crodont,
Hmm.
where like Whimsicott, sure, it can work on Psychic Train, but it's very limited in what it can do. Like, I'm sure you're going to be in situations where you want to be clicking Encore, but you can't, or like Fake Tears.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, you can Tailwind, you can Light Screen, you can Helping Hand, you can do all that, but since you're going to be prepping every week, I'm sure there's going to be situations where you're kind of making it harder on yourself just because of that Psychic Terrain.
Yeah. Agreed. I gave this draft a 7.5.
Me too.
Nice.
Wow.
Glad we could agree. All right. Next up is KD. Why don't you start with this one?
Yeah. Yeah, KD drafted the most KD team. KD ever KD'd. I know he was struggling to find like a beat up mon, and like in Grace, someone dropped Sneasel. So I think that is honestly huge for him. Like both for the Annihilate and the Archaludon take advantage of that. Then we have loads of KD mons. It's the Meowstic. We know what it does. It has screens. It has Prankster Weather. It's got the Terra Magmortar with Follow Me, the Blow You Up Staraptor.
Hmm.
We know this draft is good. So what I'll say, I feel like Annihilate on this draft only ever wants to run the bulk up set, which I think, Annihilate can do more than that. I feel like Scarf, Final Gambit, Scarf coaching has been explored a lot more. I feel like I wish there was something on this team to take advantage of that versatility, like setting up Trick Room or like coaching up something. So I don't know. I feel it's okay. Also, I feel like his speed floor is kind of high, where he's gonna be facing like if he's facing Trick Room, he's always gonna be at a disadvantage, given that his slowest speed is from the Poltergeist, which is probably never coming, maybe once. So that's kind of abusable in my opinion.
Right.
What do you see about it?
So I agree with you. I think like yeah, Annihilate, Archaludon, like two very, very strong setup threats with a lot of damage potential. And it's supported really well. Like it has like Meowstic screens. It has like Magmortar redirection, which we've seen that KD with Magmortar is gonna make Magmortar look like a really good Terra Captain. Um, Staraptor is good. Noivern is good. Um, I don't really like the Politoed pick, and the fact that KD went triple C tier with his free picks. I think that's like probably not the most optimal. Like Politoed on this team to me serves only to give Archaludon rain and nothing else. I don't really see any other
Yeah.
purpose for it. Um,
I mean, there's Hurricane from like Noivern, and I guess Bravery gets it as well. But yeah,
yes.
not much apart from that. Like if there were like a swift swimmer, we would be looking a lot better right now.
Yeah, it just feels like he's going all in on both Annihilate and Archaludon, which I mean has worked for him in the past, but like as a draft concept, I would like to see more balance, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. If is Chinchino in C tier,
Yeah, it is.
yo, he can drop that for like whatever swift swimmer. You can get like a Barraskewda or something, and this automatically gets better in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. I gave this
But yeah, it's a solid draft.
it's solid. It's good. Like KD will do good with it. It's a KD team. I gave it a 7 though. Don't come at me, KD, please.
I gave it an 8 because I think, in a way, like Katie is kind of nailed. He knows what support Annihilate needs. He knows how to pilot this. I am like only rating the draft, but I feel like he does know the tools Annihilate needs to succeed.
I just know KD's watching this right now and he's gonna be like, damn, bro, that's crazy. Only a 7. My bad, bro. You want to see a worse draft though? We got drops up next. I'm sorry.
Oh
I'm
my god.
sorry, drops. I'm sorry, bro.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I'm sorry, bro. I don't like this draft. Like I really don't. Um, okay, so what I'll say about this one, I think so you drafted Sneasler Rillaboom. In this position, I would have drafted Sneasler and Indeedee Mill, which is, it gets you a B tier instead of an A tier, and I think is better support for Sneasler and provides a better template to draft than I think what this team did. Um, we also talked about the fact that there's like a lot of type overlap on this team. Like in the first three picks, there's two fighting types. There's also three electric types on this team. There's
Two water types, two ground
three water
types.
types, three water types.
Oh, three water types. Yeah.
There's like two ground immune ghost types. This team has three levitate Pokemon, right? Yeah, three levitate
Yeah.
Pokemon and Drifblim with Mudsdale. So what the idea looks
with grassy terrain as
right,
well, so they
right. So
don't.
like what the idea looks like there is like Disquake or like EQ spam, but then you have Rillaboom with grassy terrain, which like you can play around it, but it just feels weird that it's all on the same team together. Like, and I don't think both Miss Magius and Drifblim need to be here. Like, just Drifblim would be fine. They're both C tier ghost types. It doesn't really make sense. Um, this team, this was a wheel pick team, but it doesn't really look like it flows that well together. Or has like great synergy. I I don't really understand this team at all. Like,
Nah.
it has support. It has fake out from Dugong, redirection from Pachi. It has damage, pivoting, but I don't know.
Yeah,
Intimidate
like
from Tauros. Yeah.
the notes I have for this team are what is happening here? Why is the Dugong? What is Dugong doing here? And very disconnected, incoherent. Um, so take that as you will.
Hmm.
Um, like if you look at it on paper, speed tiers are good.
Yeah.
He does have the offense, but yeah, Sneasler Rillaboom isn't like like a pair that's gonna carry you through a season, like at all. Like it's solid together. Sure, you get Unburdened Grassy Seed, but really, like just run Covert Cloak and the Poison type, you know.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, I'm sorry, Drops. You're not getting a very good score. If I was gonna say something to maybe improve this, those Ogiri is available, so maybe you can like get some free agency trades, get those Ogiri, and build up from there.
Don't give him idea.
Maybe.
Don't give him that idea, man. I
But
don't want to face those Ugiri.
yeah, not the best.
I gave this a 4.5.
I gave it a 3.
Yo, he's gonna be so bad. That's crazy.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Drops. Like, prove us wrong. Prove us wrong.
I hope you do.
But yeah, it's not looking very good.
All right. So that concludes our red draft. We're now moving on to the blue draft. Sponsored here by our beautiful Blastoise.
Yeah, I think we're about half an hour in, so I think we're good. We're doing good on time.
Perfect. All right. So first we got Mike. This is
Okay.
also a Sarah Ledge draft, and I think Sarah Ledge is a good Terra captain. I'll let you take the floor though.
Yeah. No. This draft, I love it. I think it's really,
Mhm.
really, really, really solid. I feel like there's so much synergy going on here. There's Indeedee, Snorlax for Trick Room, but also like you can do Cussed Up Berry, Follow Me, Belly Drum, or whatever Belly Drum you want to do, or Curse. You have another Trick Room setter in Rapska, which is pretty decent. You're taking advantage of Psychic Terrain also with Espeon and the same Rapska for Expanding Force. You have more speed control in the Kilowatt rule plus Mamoswine. Great Disquake, also with Primarina. You have great redirection for Staryu Ledge in that Indeedee. You have ways of setting up like weakness policy weak armor as well with like Aquajet from Primarina or whatever from Weavile. You have the same like double pledge with
Yep.
Sceptile Primarina. He has like so many options every week. I was kind of analyzing this and I was looking like, okay, I guess Lucario, Weavile are the only things that kind of look a little weird to me. And I feel like if Lucario is here just for having a steel type, it's not going to give you the really like any steel type resistances.
I think
and
it's
for
more so here
Justified
for
with
the
beat up.
fighting coverage, honestly.
Yeah. So I think it's like Lucario is an okay fighting type. I wish that was something else. Something that can maybe like U-turn out, maybe has Defiant. But other than that, I think it's really solid. I also really respect the Golduck pick. I know that like that is a D tier that is just gonna solve like your weather matchups on its own, which is huge.
Okay. I agree. This is a really good draft. Honestly, Golduck was like the one thing I was like, okay, wait, why is this here? But yeah, I guess I didn't consider it as like a weather check to an extent. Um, I think this is insane. I really like the idea that you can do like a bunch of different combos. Like you have Espeon or Rabsca with expanding force that you can use next to Indeedee. You have Kilo, Watchel, and Mamoswine Disquake, which is pretty strong. Indeedee plus Ceruledge is a really good combo where you can redirect and set up. And then I think, like I said, like even like Unburdened Sceptile, where
Oh
you
yeah, I
just
didn't mention that.
you can
Yeah.
just outspeed the entire metagame, go for Grass Pledge, and then have your specs Primarina go for Water Pledge and just one-shot things, and then get like a quarter of the speed on the opponent's team, which I think is like maybe the best use of Pledge that I've seen so far. Um, so yeah, I
Yeah,
think this team
it
is
actually
insane.
doesn't feel like a meme. It feels like a very solid option Mike can go for like
Yeah,
any week,
like
and you have to prep
genuinely,
for it. Yeah,
genuinely solid option. I gave this team a 9.
I also gave this team a 9. Uh, room for improvement, not a lot. I would say just get a slightly better fighting type. I feel like beat up Justified is bait. Uh, Other than that, really solid.
Well, it's not even just that.
Maybe
You know
maybe
what?
adjust turns.
He could also do beat up, weakness policy, weak armor, Ceruledge.
Yeah,
So that's an option.
that would probably KO his Surge though.
Maybe, yeah. But there's a lot of stuff you can go for. I think this is a very fun team, and I think it's good too. I think it functions well together. So
Yeah, Mike's gonna pilot this really well, I feel.
I think so too. All right. Next up we got Trikster. So I just want to say to all you blue drafters out there, you let this man with the second overall pick get Ursulina Bloodmoon, and then at all the way back around, when it looped all the way back around, you let him get Sneasler too, bro. Y'all
That's wild.
y'all need to answer for that. How did y'all let him do this? And he also got Indeedee to pair with Sneasler. I think Typhlosion is really good on the offensive side as well. Sinistcha's pretty good Pokemon. Alchemy is going to support pretty well. I would like to see better Trick Room setting on this team, where right now it's just Indeedee. But the Tailwind is really good. The Tailwind with full beat is pretty good. Um,
Yeah.
like there is like a bit of like counter synergy there, where like you can't go for like the Prankster moves on the opponent Pokemon if you have Psychic Terrain up, and I don't think there's like a really great Psy spam user on this team, which knocks it down like a peg for me. Um, but the damage potential on this team is still like insane. Um, I would say like a few of the picks like Umbreon, I don't really like Alola, and then like I feel like those could be upgraded. Maybe you get like a good size spam, a decent size spam user in C tier, D tier, something like that. Um,
Yeah, the Umbreon feels a little lonely. Like, what is it actually doing here? Is it just a dark type, or does it actually have a purpose?
yeah, good question. I don't really know. But I would say this team is like pretty solid anyway. Like the offense is gonna go crazy on this team. Seriously, it's gonna be
Yeah,
very hard to take these attacks.
yeah. No, the offense is great. What I'll say is that I think there's like too many reasons to run Snarl into this team and like no punishment for it. It's like you're hitting
Mm,
the Ursaluna, you're hitting the Typhlosion, you're hitting the Indeedee and the Sinistcha. So, like, you have to judge this team knowing that you're going to face Snarl every week. And might be a little rough. I wish there was like a Defiant user or something like that
yeah.
to counteract and like dissuade Snarl from being clicked. The other thing I'll say, I think this team kind of struggles into Earthquake spam.
Yeah.
Like your only your only resists are Volbeat and Sinistcha, which are not going to redirect an EQ from anything. and
Does
there's just very
Bastion?
little reason not to. Yeah, it does get wide guard. Yeah,
Bastion gets wide guard. Okay, so there's that. But
yeah. But then you're kind of running Bastion every week, and it's kind of rough.
yeah,
But yeah, really, really solid offensively. If there was something that covers both of those weaknesses, I think this would be solid. Like I know there's like maybe even like a bravery, something like that could really help out with Defiant and the flying type. But yeah, really solid.
for sure. I gave this one an 8.
I gave this a 7.5.
All right, pretty close. Okay, next up is Mr. Amazing. I have a lot to say about this one, but I'll let you start.
Okay, I also have a few things to say. I'll start off with okay. He drafted double drizzle. I thought this was bait. I thought this was gonna be oh yeah, I'll draft both both range setters and then just drop one of them in Grace for like Basque Legion, just so during the draft I'm never competing into everyone like into anybody for all the rain tools. But he actually kept them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really interesting where it makes sense in draft, knowing that everyone's going to run Sunny Day into you, to have two options for switching in and getting rain up. That said, into manual Sunny Day, switching out won't really help.
Yes.
I wish there were like some fast pivots here. Maybe like a flip turn Barraskewda or like some prankster parting shot or just fast U-turn would really help out actually sending those rain pivots in.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
The other thing I'll say is that his speed tiers are kind of bad. Like his fastest mon is like base mon is Overquill. I think he's kind of relying on everything being in rain all the time, which is not going to be the case.
Right.
So yeah, out of rain he gets outsped by basically everything, and his trick room mode. I don't know. What do you have to say?
Well, so what you kind of were just alluding to is like the biggest problem I have with this team. Like both Pelipper and Politoed, I think that's one wasted A tier pick. Like I get you're hard committing to rain, but the main problem with rain teams or weather teams in general in draft is maintaining the weather in front of manual setters. And like you said, pivoting out is not going to help you with that when you're facing like a prankster Sunny Day user or something like that. Um, and then if you are facing something like that, something that can reverse or negate weather, then yeah, your speed tiers are pretty bad. Your highest is 85. It's shared by Overquill and Kingdra. So, I don't love that. And then the Trick Room mode, like Porygon 2 is a really good Pokemon, but it feels awkward here, a little bit disjointed. Like if you swapped like maybe Politoed for a good A tier Trick Room user, I would feel a lot better about this draft. But you have P2 and then you drafted Dusk Noir, which like does the same thing but worse. So it's like why have it on the team? I don't really get it. Um Scizor, I think, is a really good pick. Like Pelipper, Kingdra is obviously really good. I think Overquill also has a lot of potential. Berserker is a good D tier. Luxray is okay. Torterra has setup potential next to Magmortar. There's not a ton of damage mitigation on this team outside of the redirection. Well, I guess there is Intimidate from Overquill, but are you running that or Swift Swim? I guess it depends on
Yeah,
the week. And then Magmortar being the redirection on a rain team without being able to Terra is a bit weird, I will say, because you're just boosting up water moves against it. Um, I think this team has potential, but I think it needs a lot of fixes before I would feel confident about it.
yeah,
I think he deserves the benefit of the doubt though, because he's the reigning champion. But
yeah. No, for sure. I'll add that the rain and the trick room feel a bit disjointed. I feel like the only link I can see really is just the Berserker and Scizor,
mhm. And
which
to
is
be fair, those
that
Terra
is
Steel
gonna
bullet
yeah that
punches
is
are going to do a lot of damage next to Berserker.
oh yeah for
A
sure.
lot of damage.
Uh, but yeah, I don't know. His trick room mode feels like very vulnerable to taunt, just regular taunt. You know, Porygon is always gonna run Eviolite.
Hmm.
I think Torterra is fake without Terra. Crabominable is okay, but like you've got budget Trick Room sweepers,
Right.
all of which are physical.
Premium Trick Room, budget Trick Room sweepers. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, all of which are physical, which is kind of abusable.
Yeah.
I don't know. I gave this team a 6.
I was actually a little bit higher. I give it a 6.5. But yeah, like there's the framework is there. I think it can function as a rain team. I would like to see instead of Politoed like a good Trick Room sweeper and then also I think a secondary manual rain setter, like maybe Prankster rain setter would make this team better in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Next up is Gengar, my teammate.
Yeah, you can go ahead and start on this one.
All right, so Gengar's A tiers, like his Ninetales, Alola, Volcarona, Garchomp, Kingambit, I think all work like extremely well together. They flow really well. I think basically cover for each other's weaknesses really well. Where Ninetales, can set Veil, which affords the setup opportunities of all of them, or just like, just adds another layer of bulk to the team. And then the coverage between the three of them just is really solid. Covers for each other's weaknesses, like I said. There are great switch-ins for each other. And there's a lot of roll compression among both Ninetales and Volcarona, and then pretty good offense from Chomp and Kingambit to add to that. Gengar is a solid, not the player, the Pokemon is a solid B tier pick, I think. I think it's like good secondary offense on this team. Corviknight is also pretty good. Interested to see how it does as a Terra Captain. And then I like Electivire, but I think the rest of this draft is lacking like Pokemon that like really contribute to like a I guess like good degree, like a significant degree. I don't like Stonjourner is just gonna be like an enabler for other offense. It doesn't really do that much on its own. Tentacruel, Coughing, and Pincurchin I don't really like as D tier picks, but they are low tiers. You just would like to see, I feel, more value out of them. And then Crawdon is cool, but I just feel like there's a little bit of overlap with Kingambit. So that could also
Yeah,
be
for
something
sure.
else.
One problem I think Gengar's draft has is that I think I mentioned this. All 4 of his A tiers have 4 times weaknesses,
Hmm.
and given how like his draft is built, he's probably bringing all 4 of those A tiers like basically every week.
Yeah,
So he's going to be like this is Ninetales, Volcarona, Garchomp, Kingambit facing into Steel, Rock, and Ice and fighting moves like every week, which for me like turns it down a notch. Sure, they cover each other's weaknesses, and Gengar is a good enough player to know how to play around that. But it is kind of a big weakness, and it is kind of the reason why things like Volcarona and Kingambit sometimes go undrafted. I want to see Gengar like pilot this well. Just maybe not week 1. When
no,
we're
no,
facing
week
each
one,
other.
definitely he's gonna go crazy week one. I'll make sure of it.
Yeah. And the other thing is that his speed tiers are a little clumped around 100.
Yeah,
I feel like if you have anything over Gengar, like you get so much value out of just speed creeping that Gengar. You get like the whole team. So he's going to be facing that as well every week.
that's true. It does de-escalate pretty nicely from 110. Aside from I guess between Electivire and Stonjourner, but you would like to see the fastest Pokemon be just a little bit faster. I think the reason, like what you said about all the A tiers having 4x weaknesses, does knock this down just a little bit for me. Even though I think that they cover for them well, that is going to be an unavoidable, thing in some circumstances. So I gave this draft a 7.5.
I gave it an 8. I believe in Gengar.
I do too. I do too. All right. Next up, we got your teammate. So I'll let you go first.
True. Okay, so we got Scubar on Mousehold Whimsicott. Also going for that like double A tier support, and then a bunch of good mons that work around that support. Chandelure here has like 2 roles. It's both like a Trick Room setter and like the equivalent of a Typhlosion Hisui, where it just wants to click like Terra Fire, heat waves in Sunny Day from Whimsicott. Really benefits from like Tailwind support and the Follow Me support from Mousehold. Mudsdale here has great value as well as a Trick Room sweeper and with like double beat up support from Mousehold and Whimsicott. I don't want to reveal too much, but I feel like this team is like really well constructed. I'll say his speed tier is a little clumped around the 80s, but that kind of works out with Tailwind and Trick Room. It's kind of where you want to be to benefit from both or from either. And he does have a slight ground weakness.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you have to say?
So I think that Mouse plus Whims is like pretty cool as support. Like you're getting the best Tailwind in the game, and you're getting like among the best redirection in the game with Friend Guard. So like going all in on the supports like that is pretty cool. I just think that the primary offense is just a bit like I don't know. It's good. Like Chandelure and Baxcalibur is good. It's just
They
like
both have like base 145 offensive stats, which is wild.
they do. Yeah, like but they're also like I don't know, not the best Pokemon. Like have common weaknesses. I think Terra Captain Chandelure is pretty good. Like I think that's honestly like I think that's a better Pokemon than Baxcalibur with Terra. Terra Grass Chandelure is gonna be a pretty big X factor on this team. I really like that pick. Just the top end offense is a little bit lacking outside of those, I would say. And but one interesting mechanic that this team has is between Chandelure and Vexcalibur, which are gonna be coming basically every week, I'm assuming. You have like Flash Fire and Thermal Exchange, which is pretty good to like limit the amount of like spread heat wave that's gonna be coming in the face of like Tinkaton or Whimsicott or Mousehold. So I think that's pretty cool. Because
Yeah, especially with how many people have drafted like one of the Typhlosions. I feel like that kind of puts a spanner in the works.
yeah. And then the last thing I'll say about this team is like I don't think that the low tiers really add much. I don't really see the reason for like Meganium. I think Muck is like mid. Rotom is okay. It does things for sure. Um, and then yeah, like Tauros is also pretty good, I guess. But um, I don't know. It's like a pretty decent draft for sure. But like I wouldn't say it's like I would say it's just missing like that top end offense. Um,
Okay.
I
So
gave this
given that, I gave it an 8.
I gave it a 7.5 as well.
Okay, so pretty close. Honestly, like for having done this like independently, we're actually like matching up really well
Yeah,
in
I'm
our
surprised.
scores.
I think the biggest difference between us was what Splatty.
Yes, you gave it an 8.5. I gave it a 6.
All right, so we can move on to
Yeah.
Kid. Okay.
You can go ahead and start on this one.
All right, so I really like this take on Dragapult. I think it's pretty interesting. I think Pult, Rillaboom, and Grimmsnarl is a pretty good starting trio of A tiers. Um, but what I'll say is that I think outside of the A tiers, Kid may have leaned a bit too heavy into supports, where he has like Grafaiai and Hitmontop. Um, I think both of those are good Pokemon. Like they're both on my team with Dragapult, but I think like you already cover for those. Like you already have like the Fake Out. You already have like the Prankster Pokemon. Prankster Parting Shot. So I don't think Grafaiai is gonna come very often on this team. I think Hitmontop may. I like Intimidate and Double Fake Out is fine, for sure. But I feel like I would have liked to see a little bit more offense out of that pick. Um, and I would say like if your direction is Rillaboom and Grimmsnarl, I would like to see a few more setup sweepers on this team because all I'm really seeing
Yeah,
is like DD Dragapult, which you may or may not run that often, Rotom, and then Chimecho. Like Rotom's cool. I think DD Pult is not the best set, and then Chimecho is like just an okay Pokemon. Um, and then also Chimecho plus Camerupt is just like a weird disjointed Trick Room core where I feel like you should have fleshed that out a bit more. But I will say like all the Pokemon on this team do something. They all serve a purpose. They're all good. I just think that there's a lot of role overlap, and maybe some changes would make this a better team.
Yeah, so I feel like it is a really solid team. I just, as I was looking at things to kind of like that I don't really like about the draft, they kept like adding up. I feel like the speed tier is a little clumped. The trick room mode is a bit mid because it's literally Whimsicott, Chimecho, Camerupt. I know Camerupt can do great things. I'm just not sure you can do that with also like a low tier trick room setter and an okay like trick room fake out one.
Yeah.
Uh, Again, like what's setting up with the Grimmsnarl screens and Rillaboom terrain? Like you've set that up perfectly for some things like bulk up or calm mind or something like that. But really, there's nothing that obviously wants to do that like in a
Yeah.
week. I
And then
know like
Rotom is a nasty plot sweeper, but it doesn't even benefit from grassy terrain.
yeah. It feels a little weird to have double pranks there, but they don't have that much overlap in their moveset, so I guess it's okay. There's going to be a lot of maybe double parting shots, pivoting, which is kind of disgusting
Yeah.
with screens and
The,
grassy terrain.
the damage mitigation
Um,
on this team is pretty insane, I will say.
oh, yeah. Yeah. He's got a little bit of a burn weakness. I feel like there's nothing that really helps into like his Dragapult, his Rillaboom, his his Hitmontop and Grimmsnarl are all like big targets for a Will-O-Wisp,
Hmm.
which might be an issue. He has like no status absorber. I feel like it's also too slow paced for Zoroark to do anything here. Also, like not being a Terra Captain kind of limits its possibilities.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's an okay draft. It's just all of these small things that kind of add up. For that, I gave it a 7.5.
I gave it a 7, so pretty close. Okay. Next up is electric. I'll let you start with this one.
So Electric somehow, I don't know how, who let her, drafted Goldengo Hydreigon. I mean, arguably the best A tier and the best B tier Terra Captain. And I feel like they're pretty well supported here. You've got Tailwind from Illumise. You've got also like a Trick Room mode kind of with Trevenant and Farigiraf. Although I don't really see many mods that actually benefit from that. Sure, you can do like
Well, there's
Trick Room
Ampharos and
Sweeper Ampharos.
Decidueye as well.
Yeah, but they're not really that slow. I don't know. It feels okay. Like the start was really good. Clefable also supports those two really well. Um, I feel like at the tail end of this draft, you kind of lost the plot. There's some good tools here, and I know Electric is going to be able to cook up some good sets and get some wins.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like it needs a slow fake out mon. I feel like Frostlass is only here to do Frost Breath into Anger Point Tauros.
Yeah.
Uh, Sudowoodo isn't really a very good Trick Room Sweeper. Sure, you can get some damage out of it with like Choice Band Head Smash. But it's not something that justifies picking two of the best Trick Room setters just to try to sweep with that.
Yeah. Hmm.
I don't know. What would you add?
So I think like I mentioned before with confused Goldingo team, I think this team really supports Goldingo well with good switch-ins and good covers for its weaknesses well with switch-ins. I would say like I think Tauros, Salazzle, and Clefable are like incredible supports for Goldingo, though Aqua Tauros specifically. I think that's all those were really good picks. I really like the fake out plus acid spray potential next to Goldingo. And then Salazzle also acts as like a nice pivot where you can do like overheat eject pack into like your tailwind or into your redirection. I think that combos really well. I think the Trick Room mode is fine, honestly. I like Ampharos, Decidueye. Sudowoodo and Frostas, like you mentioned, are both kind of there. I don't love those picks, but they are like really low tier picks, so it doesn't really affect the draft too much for me. And then Hydreigon, yeah. Maybe okay, so maybe the biggest thing for me is like it leans a little bit more towards special offense, and then the physical attackers are Tauros, Decidueye, and Trevenant, which all, like they share a couple types between them. Um, so that's a weakness, but the Tailwind is insanely good. The Trick Room is insanely good. Redirection is really good. Fake Out is there. I gave this team a 9. I think it's really really solid.
Oh wow. Okay. I went a little lower than that. I went for a 7.
Okay.
I feel like, yeah, kind of what I said. Like the Trick Room mode isn't really fully fleshed out. I also add that I don't really like the Hydreigon Terrors. I don't like that you're not covering for the fighting weakness. I kind of wish that poison was that steel was a poison terror instead, especially having Golden Go
Yeah,
as
that's
like the most premium steel type.
that's fair. That's fair.
But yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, 7 is solid. It's just not BHanny or Carney draft level for me.
That's fair. All right. Next up is Keegachu. Am I going first this time or are you?
Yeah, this is you.
Okay. All right. So I think you brought this up, but this team looks based around the team that Marco Fiero took to 3 straight major finals with Torkoal, Ursaluna, Charizard, Incin, Jumpluff, and then it would be P2 over the Bronzong, but Bronzong is also still like a really, really good Trick Room setter. Um, Mega is also here, which I think doesn't look as good as it does on BHanny's team, but is still like a really solid Pokemon, I feel. Serena is also pretty good. Um, a few of the low tier picks like Revavroom, Rotom, Slowpoke, like I don't really get. I don't like Slowpoke is like what, like slow Trick Room, right? I mean, you kind of already have Bronzong for that
Yeah.
purpose. Like I don't really
Hmm.
think a lot of these mons do anything for me, but the rest of the team flows really well together. Has a ton of support. I think Jumpluff is a mon that Keegachu is gonna get like a ton of use out of, especially next to his sweepers. Charizard is gonna be like a pretty good weather sweeper. And I think like this team, like, yeah, it might be weak terrain, but I think it's probably more manageable than other Sun teams. Um,
Yeah, I
Given,
mean, we saw what happened when like Marco Fair was facing off a rain team. Like it definitely has tools around it. You have manual Sunny Day with Jump Bluff, which is huge.
yeah, and Mega too.
Honestly, yeah, and that too. Honestly, it's impressive that Keegachu actually managed to draft like arguably the most broken Reg H team,
Yeah.
almost in its entirety in draft.
And I mean, to
So
be
to that,
fair, like
hmm,
like it's gonna be slightly worse in draft because it will be counter teamed. I just want to make that clear, but it still is like very good.
yeah, to me it feels like the stat check team. It's like, is your draft strong enough or does it have the right tools to be the best Sun team?
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, the low tiers don't really say anything. It really feels like it's going to be the top 5, top 6 coming every week, and maybe Serena, maybe Revavroom one week.
Yeah. I get
So it's going to get wins just from being like the best Reg H team, and I want to see
yeah.
if Keegachu knows how to pilot it the way Marco Fiero does.
Yeah. I gave it an 8.5.
I gave it a 7.5 just because it's worse in draft. But yeah, it's a 10 if it's Reg H.
All right. Moving on to anti. So I think you brought this up, and I'll let you take the floor in a second, but I just wanted to say I think you brought this up yesterday, where you said Dozogiri gets a bump in this format because you kind of have to like pick a player on your team who has a good Dozogiri matchup, which may or may not benefit you, I guess. Like it may or may not be like difficult for you to deal with. Like if your captain has the Dozogiri team and you pick a person with like a bad Dozogiri matchup, you're going to be playing from behind.
Yeah. That said, it also has that same weakness where people can pick their matchup into anti, like from the coin flip, and just pick the good Dozogiri matchup.
Mm-hmm.
I am not a big fan of this Dozogiri team. I feel like Dozogiri needs some immediate offense, and our Chaludon isn't really that. It also doesn't have rain, which I know our Chaludon doesn't need, but it really benefits from it.
Hmm.
I do think Ribombi is a good partner for our Chaludon, given that you don't have Amoonguss. Like this, I feel like this won't be the classic stamina AV our Chaludon most weeks. I feel it's going to be Power Herb, Electro Shot with Ribombi most weeks.
Hmm.
Um,
You do have beat up from the Houndoom, I will add.
that is true, but that is also a Houndoom.
Yeah, Houndoom
Which is,
sucks.
I guess it's okay. It's kind of fast, I guess. It's base 95, sure. That's okay.
My experience using Houndoom last season in CPDL was not a good one.
Oh yeah.
So I am not
I
very high on
remember
that
that.
one. Yeah. But yeah, continue.
Yeah, he has a huge gap in his speed tiers between Altaria and
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice
um,
that.
the Eggy, which is, it's kind of okay if your gap is there and not like higher up. But really, all it means is that base 60s never have to invest like any speed into you because they're never going to outspeed anything.
Yeah.
So they can afford to just go full bulk. Um, I don't really believe in the trick room mode for this.
Yeah, I don't.
With it's because it's Eggy Avalug, like it feels fake.
Yeah.
I don't know what Duck Trio is doing here. I know there's definitely like some utility there where you can like flowchart matchups around Arena Trap. But yeah, it's not a very good Final Gambit user if that's what you're going for with Dozogiri. You do have Thraptor though, which does cover for that Final Gambit slot, which
Hmm.
is nice. Um, but yeah, the Electabuzz also feels a bit disconnected. Like, what is it actually supporting? What is actually benefiting from its speed control? Um, what is setting up on itself that you want to follow me away from? It feels a bit odd to me.
Yeah. I'm a little bit higher on this draft. I think like they have good tools. Like they have good tailwind, good redirection in Electabuzz, which is, it does mean something. And then damage mitigation with Altaria. There is a tricker mode that exists, I guess. And I think Staraptor and Mienshao, like those will serve to soften the team up for Dozogiri. Um, like I think that's kind of where this team does the best is just like, like maybe it's not like that cohesive, but it does have decent damage overall. Um, just between Staraptor and Mienshao, I do think the Archelodon is a bit weird though. Like it does feel a little bit disjointed from this draft. And as an A tier pick, that's certainly not optimal. Um, I agree Doug Trio is strange. Um, I don't like so what are you trapping? Like you ideally you want to trap and remove things that are weak to Dozo. I guess with like Doug Trio Final Gambit Star after you can do that. Like that's something you could do. And that also is like a earthquake spam thing that you could go for, but um
Yeah,
I-
off like 100 base attack, it's really not that powerful.
yeah, it's a bit weird and Doug Trio is very frail, so I don't know. It's okay. I don't think it's the best use of a Dozogiri team though. I gave this a 7.5.
I went a lot lower than that actually. I gave it a 5.
Okay.
I know it's Dozogiri, but for a Dozogiri team, it's a 5 for me.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. And then last one for B tier, we've got Jordan. So
You can go ahead and take this one.
yeah, so Jordan's Firegrass Water between Palafin, Skeledirge, and Arboleva, I think is actually really, really solid. I like it a lot. It's like very fat. And then I also think that like where you have Dragonite as the first pick, I think you can kind of leverage that for good entries with Palafin. Um, And then D Knight and Sylveon is a good Dragon Fairy. You would like to see a better Steel type than Earthworm, but this team actually I think does get good use out of Earthworm. Where you have like Crocodile and even Dragonite that you can EQ next to. You can also EQ next to like Misdreavus. I don't know how much you're going to be doing that, but it is an option. Um, the speed tiers are okay, but the team doesn't have like really good Trick Room or Tailwind. It's kind of just like a bulky offensive balance team. It seems like you get a lot of benefit out of Meowstick for sure with the screens. So yeah, I like Crocodile on this team. I like the Firewater Grass. It's good like a fundamental Pokemon team, I guess. And the Prankster Riolu
Yeah,
is fun as well.
it's pretty solid in my opinion. I think the Earthworm pick makes so much sense with this draft, both for like Dragonite EQ and Crocodile. It also works really well with Palafin, where you want to be working around pivots. I also do see the Arboliva putting in, helping out there. Skeledurge is an amazing Terra Captain, in my opinion. Like, the value you get out of Unaware and just countering basically any setup strategy with the Terras that you have
Yeah.
is an invaluable asset to his team. So where a balanced team would usually sometimes worry about being getting set up on and just losing, uh, Skeledurge works as a stop for that, which really helps.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I forgot Shed Tail was a move, and once you brought up Orthworm, like yeah, like that's if you can bring in
Yeah, you get
Palafin behind a sub, that's really solid.
or like Dragonite multi-scale behind the sub. That's huge.
Yeah,
Um,
true.
I'll say that he kind of has the opposite situation that Electric does, where instead of having good Trick Room setters, bad Trick Room sweepers, his only Trick Room setter, I mean, he has Meowstic as well, but his main Trick Room setter is Mischievous,
Hmm.
which is a Trick Room setter which doesn't usually want to be in Trick Room. It usually works as an anti-Trick Room mon. It's a very good one at that. Uh, but yeah, that Avalok Hisui really feels like it needs a better Trick Room setter. The Arboliva also would really benefit from another, like a better Trick Room setter.
Yeah.
I
I'm
do
wondering
believe in the Riolu pick as well. Coaching into D Knight is really cool,
I'm,
and Palafin.
I'm wondering what you would drop for a better Trick Room setter. Is it Jolteon? I don't know because the speed is like that's your fastest Pokemon by far. Like the speed tier, like the fast part of the speed tiers is a bit weird because you have Jolteon, which is like an okay Pokemon.
Yeah,
Probably there for like just
maybe
fast speed control.
maybe if like the Sylveon was a Hatterene or something, even though that is kind of a drop in power, it is better utility. I don't know. I guess Jordan would have to figure that out, but it is quite solid as it is, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
agreed. I gave this an 8.
I gave it 7.5.
All right. All right, so that concludes blue draft. We're moving on to yellow draft with your Captain Pikachu. All right. So first off, we got Tetris.
We got Mr. Tetris, Mr. Tetromino. So this team feels like the 2-2-2 of draft. You've got Mouse Ape, and you've got Sand. I know those two archetypes can be used together. I'm not sure if it's going to be as effective in draft as it would be in Reg H, because you are doubling up on some weaknesses like fighting, and you're not covering for weaknesses that one of the two archetypes have.
Yeah.
I, I mean, the speed tiers are good. Again, maybe his speed floor is a little too high, so you can get abused by opposing Trick Room. I don't believe in Sozbuk as a Terra Captain. I don't know. I think it's okay. I'm just not sure how these two archetypes are going to mesh together.
Yeah, it gives me pause as well because of the fighting weakness. I mean, you're probably going to be terrestrializing Excadrill the second it comes out, basically, but I think like T-Tar Mouse being weak to it is a bit troubling for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Although Terra Onexka was something that was not on my radar, but it is honestly going to be a very good Terra Captain. Getting those Terra Ground, high horsepowers, and EQs
yeah.
next to Noivern and Rotom and Cryogonal. is going to be huge.
Yeah,
And I feel like it's the kind of playstyle that Tetris can do well with.
I think so too. I will say I don't really understand the cryogonal or like also the Muck and Sawsbuck I think are just like kind of meh. But like I think the rest of these Pokemon are all like pretty solid. Meowstic obviously, I don't think you mentioned it, but really good support there with screens. Prankster T-Wave. He has good
Yeah,
Tailwind with Noivern. Uh,
there is obviously a big influence by KD here. Honestly,
yes, for
like,
sure.
you can see the Sawsbuck, the Noivern, the Meowstic, the Mouseape.
Yeah,
I know. I think you said that he was getting actually some help from KD in this draft. So
yeah.
I guess it's cool that they kind of joined forces and drafted this up.
KD got the draft he wanted in the yellow draft, and it wasn't even on his team. That's kind of sad, but anyway,
True.
um, I think like Alchemy is a pretty good C tier fairy type. I would just like to see better Trick Room because I think what you can do with Alchemy is like decorate under Trick Room with Tyranitar. You kind of see it
True.
with Calyrex Ice, where if you have like an offensive Trick Room setter, then you can kind of snowball. This team doesn't really have that, so it doesn't get the best use out of Alchemy in my opinion. But I think
Yeah.
overall there is like pretty good bulk and offense throughout this team. It has a lot of options, a lot of utility, and yeah, I gave it an 8.
I gave this a 7.
All right. Moving on to Parry. So, okay. So we talked about two Golden Go teams already. I think both of them are sadly better than this one. I think what this one has or what this one doesn't have that the others do is good defensive synergy around Goldengo, where I think like yeah, like you support Goldengo pretty well with Murkrow, Mienshao, Berserker, Clefable, and Thwackey, but there's not really a ton of like heat wave switch-ins. Like there's pretty much just Cinderace and Rhydon, right? If I'm not mistaken. Like those are the only Pokemon that can really like take a
Yeah. No. Yeah.
like not be two shot by heat wave. I guess there is like wide guard from Mienshao, so there's that. Um
And don't forget about thick fat Grumpig.
yeah, yeah, there's that too. That actually, that is valid. I would say there's not enough fire or ground resistances though in general. In
Hmm.
that is a pretty big issue. I think dark weaknesses like or dark resistances as well. There's Murkrow and there's Meowscarada, both of which are decently frail. Um but I will say the damage potential on this team is pretty crazy between Goldengo, Mienshao, Cinderace, um, Toxtricity, Meowscarada, even like some Clefable sets, and Berserker is gonna boost up Goldengo too. So yeah, it's okay. I don't love it as a Goldengo team, but it definitely does some things well.
Yeah. I think. I mean, really, the main thing that sticks out here is that heat wave weakness, and given how many people have drafted like things that have either Terra Fire or can run a Scarf and Click Eruption, that is going to be an issue every week. So unless Parry patches that up somehow, I would say that would be with some sort of soft rain mode, which takes advantage of Murkrow Rain Dance. He's not going to get a good score from me. Like that is like everything else is kind of okay. Like sure, he got some value out of his lower tier picks. His B tiers are okay. Meowscarada and Grassy Train is going to be huge. But neither Goldingo nor Meowscarada are gonna solve the fire type problem. So for that reason, I gave this actually a 5.
Okay, I gave it a 7.
Okay.
I think the Flower Trick and Grassy Terrain is actually kind of funny, but also that's gonna be doing some damage, especially if you throw a band on Meowscarada.
Oh yeah,
Um,
for sure.
Yeah, so like he has like good ways to enable his damage between Steely Spirit on Goldengo. Um yeah.
Yeah, the trigger mode is okay. You've got Grumpig, Berserker Rhydon, double follow me. Like there's options here. He's got the good speed tiers. If if you can work around that fire weakness, I think you've got a good draft on your hands.
Yeah. All right. We can move on to Ted.
So at first, I also didn't like this Dondozo team, but I kept looking at it, and I've turned out to actually quite like it. I think it is actually a lot better than Anti's Dozo team. Um, it doesn't feel as slow paced because you have Zorark, you have Metagross with Tailwind support from Kilowattrel, which is also like an offensive Tailwind setter in itself. You have Infernape, which definitely does some damage. Serp is pretty good. Like, sure, it's a little slow to set up, but there's some value there for sure. I'm not a huge fan of his Disquake. Donphan is a little too slow, in my opinion, to take full advantage of Disquake. Like, you really want to be running like an Adamant Nature, and with 50 base speed, you're going to be forced to run Jolly sometimes if you actually want to get the jump on some threats in Tailwind. I don't fully understand the Morgrim on this team. I feel like you have plenty good screens on Superior. It doesn't always have to run Leaf Storm like setup. I also wish that actually had Terra Stellar. I don't know. I was putting in Terra types like surely this is Grass, Fire, Stellar, but water is fine, especially if you want to be using it more as a utility, like screens, Glairmon. So I think it's all right. I don't know. What would you say about this draft, Stacks?
I also am higher on this draft than the other Dozo draft. I think this team functions better outside of the Dozogiri mode, where like if you have Dozogiri counters into anti, like you can kind of play a lot better into it than this team. This team functions better on its own. I think Kilowattrel, Metagross, um, are like pretty good Pokemon. Superior and Infernape are pretty good offensive Pokemon too, and support. Um, I think this team has pretty great tailwind, prankster T-wave and screens, and the fast attackers that can benefit from both of them. I will say like one of the best ways to beat or to slow unaware Dozo is to bring Intimidate, but this team has competitive Kilowattrel and Clear Body Metagross, so
True.
like you can run unaware Dozo pretty safely, and like assuming that you won't face Intimidate spam. Um, so I think it's pretty good in that regard. Yeah, like I said, like you said, like Donphan is kind of okay as a ground type. Ariados I don't think really does much. Glalie doesn't really do much, but Zoroark and Stonjourner I think are decent Pokemon. Um, I guess I think Metagross is kind of like outside of Dozo is like the real X factor here. I think you kind of have to like really enable that really well. Soften the opponent's team up before you bring in Dozo. So, and I think
Yeah.
actually like Zoroark makes a lot of sense on a Dozo team too. So,
Oh yeah, you can hide it as Tatsugiri or as Dozo, and you're always putting on the pressure of actually switching in the other like the partner.
right.
But instead, you get hit by a Spix, like Hyper Voice with Stormjourner, and suddenly you're fucked.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
So this isn't like
yeah,
a perfect Dozo team, but it's definitely a lot better than the previous one. I gave this draft an 8.
I still went a little low. I'm actually going to change my score. I'm going to give it a 7. I had it at a 6.5. But I think Metagross is good enough to raise that up to a 7 for me.
Yeah. All right. So next up is Flareblitz, my teammate. So, um, I think Flareblitz has a pretty solid trigger mode with Mimikyu, Ursaluna, Fungus, and King Gambit. And then like a ton of roll compression with Volcarona and Skeledirge. I don't really mind that those Pokemon have overlapping rock weaknesses or water weaknesses because um I mean I think the water weakness is kind of real on this team. And then also like you can say like Ursaluna and Porygon 2 both being normal types as the main special damage dealers is a little bit of a problem. But I like that Flareblitz went Terra Ghost on Porygon too. I think that makes a lot of sense. This team has like really solid offense. Maybe just like a little bit of type overlap that is a bit of an issue. Where there's like a slight fighting weakness, water weakness. A few of the D tiers like Vulpix and Jigglypuff don't really do anything for me, but I think all of the other picks pretty much have pretty great value. I think Decidueye is pretty underrated and will do pretty good in either Tailwind or Trick Room, which this team can set relatively safely. So yeah, I think it's solid. Not great or anything, but it's a pretty good draft. So
Yeah, to me, this feels a little unbalanced. I feel like he started stacking some weaknesses and then overcompensated in the other direction and started stacking weaknesses in other types as well. So it's kind of like a back and forth stacking weaknesses, which, I don't know, maybe opponents can find a way to exploit that. Really, it is true that for every weakness he does have a resistance, but I don't know, it might be a little bit exploitable. I also feel like Urstaluna could do with some slightly better Tailwind, because especially since Volcarona doesn't actually want to be running Tailwind every week. I wish there were some, not necessarily Prankster Tailwind, but some fast, basic Tailwind that would help out. I also think his Trick Room setters are a little fast. He's got Mimikyu and PZ are both in the 90 like base speed range. So they don't really operate that well in Trick Room, especially facing like other slow mons that might not even like go min speed, just like whatever base 60 Incineroar you're facing into, which makes it a little bit awkward in my opinion. Also, I'm not a huge fan of stacking NFEs. I feel like Vulpix and Jigglypuff are like they could basically not be here, and I could judge the team the same way.
yeah.
They don't feel real. Speed tiers are kind of clumped around the 90s. There's a big gap between Volcarona and Jolteon, and another one between
Skeledirge and Porygon.
Skeledirge and PZ. Yeah, there it is workable, but definitely not ideal. That is also kind of exploitable. I feel like it is a strong team. He does have the damage, like without a doubt. It's just whether or not the opponents he faces are going to be able to exploit some of these weaknesses.
Yeah, that's fair. I will say I think the Trick Room mode is better than you kind of give it credit for, even if the setters are fast, because you have Fungus, which is one of the best Trick Room Pokemon in the game. If your opponent isn't running safety goggles, because it's just super slow, can underspeed basically everything and put things to sleep, which enables, for example, like setup from King Gambit or Ursaluna to just click buttons. So I think it's okay, but I do think that opponents are pretty incentivized to run safety goggles against this team because there is a Fungus and because there is a Volcarona. So like
Yeah.
it fulfills like a double counter where you can get around the redirection from both and also Spore. Um I think overall it's solid though. I gave it a 7.
I gave it a 6.
All right. And Loafus, your teammate, what would you like to say about Loafus?
Okay. So Loafus has a pretty strong team in my opinion. His speed tiers look pretty okay. There's a few gaps, but since Electabuzz doesn't usually want to run too much speed, it doesn't really you can really slot it in wherever you need it. It is a really interesting like take on Dragapult, where like it is the mon that least needs Tailwind to work, which I think allows Talonflame to take like a more offensive role,
Mm-hmm.
where it really wants to like target opposing like Tailwind setters, which coincidentally loads of them are actually weak to flying. Like we're talking both of the bugs and the Whimsicott. And it can match like opposing tailwinds from Murkrow as well. The other like like biggest star piece in this draft for me is the Gyarados. I feel like it's very well supported by the Electabuzz and the Earthworm to run like a more offensive set, like just DD, Terra Ground, or Terra Flying, Terra Blast. Honestly, Gyarados as a Terra Captain is a massive threat. I'm not sure if we've seen that on anyone else, maybe Tarkington. Um, but it is like Gyarados with Terra puts it above loads of A tiers, like easily for me.
Yeah.
There's also a lot of like little technology you can like techs you can take advantage of on this team. There's Medicham for fake out support. There's coaching from Riolu for that Dragapult and the Gyarados. There is a little bit of a Trick Room mode, but honestly, Avalugg here is more of a counter pick where you would have a bad matchup into opposing Avalugg Hisui, so taking that pick and having it as an anti-Trick Room on might come in handy. So yeah, what would you say about Loafus' draft?
I agree. I think Pult, Gyarados, Sylveon, Electabuzz is a really, really solid core. I'm not as high as Talonflame on this draft because I think like uh okay, so I would say with Dragapult, since it is like essentially the fastest Pokemon in the game, you don't really need to go for like a Tailwind this good. It kind of feels like an overinvestment on Tailwind, in my opinion. Um, but Talonflame is still a good Pokemon. It has good support. I'm since I used it, I in Reg H in like the first Reg H draft we did, I'm not like that high on its offensive capabilities, but it does have two very strong moves in Brave Bird and Flareblitz. Priority Brave Bird is also broken. I agree that I think Gyarados is probably the X factor here, where it feels like you know, Dragapult is going to be doing its thing, and then Sylveon is going to be doing its thing, and then you kind of have like this Pokemon in the middle that offers a ton of like it offers like good support with Intimidate, but then also can just like set up and sweep, or can be a disruptor with like T-Wave taunt sets. I think it's a really good pick. I like it as a defensive offensive Terra Captain. Um, I will say like a few of the picks on this team don't really make a ton of sense to me. Like Vileplume in particular. Medicham as the only fake out and trick room setter is stretching that Pokemon way too thin, in my opinion. I think you kind of just want to be doing damage with that one. Riolu is cool. I like Riolu on this team. Pyroar is okay. Um, I don't really love it, but especially as a Terra Captain, but it can do some damage. It has some nice text that it can do.
Yeah. If anything, I wish the Talonflame like go mode was a bit more like developed because I feel
Yeah.
like the main thing actually that is gonna go after Talonflame clicks Tailwind is that Sylveon, which is a little bit on the slower side, but it's all right. Like you will
Right.
outspeed most threats if you invest like a decent amount into speed and
Yeah.
just slap the specs on it. I also kind of wish there were some sort of defiant or competitive something that dissuades Intimidate from coming, because there are like it is kind of physically stacked with the Gyarados and Talonflame both really not liking Intimidate,
Yeah.
together with like Medicham and that Muck Alola.
Yeah, and Dragapult doesn't dissuade Intimidate. It just kind of like is neutral to it. So
Yeah,
yeah, I gave this draft a 7. I'm probably not as high on it as you are. Oh, never
I gave
mind.
it a 7 as well. Yeah.
All right. Cool, cool, cool. Next up is Buzzlightweight. So, my opinion on this draft is I think like the bulky balance core is really good. I do kind of feel like the Whimsicott is a little bit out of place though. Where you kind of cover for its primary role with both Rillaboom and Hawlucha. Um, I feel like Hawlucha is a good pick, but it does kind of feel like it overlaps a little bit with a Whimsicott. Granted, Whimsicott is a bit way better Pokemon, can do more things. Like the Prankster Encore and other techs is really nice. The Prankster
Yeah,
Fake Tears next to like a lot of these special attackers is really nice. But
yeah. Although how Lucha doesn't get Tailwind, I'm not sure if you're taking that into account.
oh, it doesn't get Tailwind?
No, no, no.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. Never mind. Okay. Well, that slightly changes things. Yeah, but okay. Yeah. No, that changes my assessment of this team for sure. Um, I would say like High Dragon most likely going to be the Terra Captain here. Obviously, an incredible pick. Rotom also uh is so they're both levitate Pokemon and they're not going to benefit from grassy terrain, but I think it's probably fine. The fire, water, grass on this team and the pivoting amongst them is incredible between Rillaboom, Arcanine, and Rotom. Um,
Hmm.
so I think the core of like Rilla, Arcanine, Rotom, Hydreigon is like really strong. Ampharos, Florges, and Polion are also all slow, bulky attackers. But the Trick Room here is Whimsicott, so that that's a little bit of a an awkward thing where like your base 60 speed Empoleon, 75 speed Florges, and 55 speed Ampharos, like they're gonna have to like you're gonna have to use Whimsicott to set up Trick Room, or you're gonna have to just like hope your opponent can't match your Tailwind with them. Otherwise, you won't have the speed advantage with those Pokemon. Um,
Yeah,
but I think like overall, like this, almost every Pokemon on this team does something. And like they're all really solid Pokemon, work well together, have great type balance, pivoting, offensive capabilities, and yeah,
yeah. No, I actually really like this draft. I feel like I mean, we can kind of assume that Hydreigon and maybe Ampharos are going to be the Terra Captains of choice here, which are two very solid choices.
yeah,
His speed tiers are looking okay, like really good. He's got good speed control, maybe not on the lower side, but he does have some anti-trick room ones in that Ampharos and Palossand. Um, there are just a few things that seem a bit off to me. I don't fully get the Rotom pick. I kind of wish, like, as an A tier, I don't think you get super good value out of it, and I wish that was something else that maybe synergizes a bit better with the Rillaboom. And I mean, you already have Empoleon, so like, do you actually need that to be a water type? I feel like in A tier there must be something that you get more value out of. Uh, I do really like the Florges pick here. I feel like you can both use Flower Veil and Symbiosis here
yeah,
with Grassy Seed proccing and protecting Rillaboom from like burns and Intimidate. Like Rillaboom Florges honestly is a really strong pair. I can see it happening. Just Helping Hand, Choice Banded, Wood Hammers, and Grassy Glides are going to fly off like left and right, which you can't like mitigate in any way. So that is pretty huge. I do like the Arcanine here. There's some beat up potential with Whimsicott, which I respect.
yeah.
Um, yeah, if anything, I would just change that Rotom wash for something else in A tier that you might get more value out of. But overall, really solid.
All right, I gave this draft an 8.
I also gave it an 8.
Nice. All right, next up we got my brother. I will let you take the first opinion on this one though.
Okay. So this draft, Plans for All, is I feel like his top picks are very good and very good together. Sneasler, Dragonite, Indeedee Male, Corviknight all work together really well. Where you get coaching support with Sneasler, you get Psychic Seed on Corviknight whenever you want to, and go for like a bulk up roost set. Offensively, they cover each other pretty well. Corviknight kind of dissuades Intimidate with Mirror Armor. You also have Inner Focus on Dragonite, so stacking those um, physical attackers isn't really that bad. And I also like that he got a second Unburdened user, which is in Driftbloom, which I love as a mon. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that is absolutely broken if you pilot it well. And I feel like, well, we'll have to see if Plums for All can. I'm looking forward to watching his matches for sure. Where the draft kind of goes south for me is when he tried to go for double terrain. Raichu Alola, it's a cool mon. It can take advantage of both like psychic and electric terrain, but off a 95 base special attack stat, it really isn't the best. I feel like when you run it in the psychic terrain, you want it to do damage and you want to go like Specs Expanding Force. And when you run it in electric terrain, you want it to be a support, just like Charm, Encore, Fake Out, whatever. But Pincurchin isn't really the kind of mon that benefits from that kind of support. So if you ever go for the electric terrain mode, I feel like you're like already 2 out of your 4 mons are Raichu and Pincurchin. Which I don't know. Maybe if there's like some super electric weak draft, then you can take advantage of it. Otherwise, not really the best.
Yeah.
I haven't really mentioned the Armarouge, but honestly, really strong special attacker here, which makes a lot of sense. Rounds out the core there. I don't know. What would you say about your brother's draft?
So yeah, I think I agree overall with what you're saying. Like very, very strong Pokemon, and I think cores that work very well together. Um, there is some Pokemon like you're saying that are kind of meh, but I do think that like every Pokemon does something in this draft, which is important. They all serve a purpose. They all have a role. Even if that role for some of them is a bit weaker than others. The offensive output on this team is like insanely high. Like one of the most offensive drafts I think that we've seen so far. And there's also incredible speed control in this draft, including not one, not two, not three, but four either Trick Room or Tailwind setters that are fake out immune. There's two more
True.
bulky Tailwind setters, and there's another Trick Room setter. So like a ton of Tailwind and Trick Room on this team. Maybe a bit too much, but like I think it's fine. Like you can pick and choose like what you're going for each week. Um, there's a quite a bit of priority on this team, and that plus psychic terrain is anti-synergistic on the surface, but I think it can be prepped and played around just fine. And I think this team, one of the biggest weaknesses for me is that big ice weakness and the lack of resist. There's really only Armarouge, and then whatever you can get, Crawdon, I guess, as well, and then whatever you can get from your Terra captains as ice resists. That's
Yeah,
the few of the biggest problems for me.
I would assume like Corviknight is probably going to pick up Terrifier or Dragon, so that kind of helps out. Turning one of those, I mean not Dragon, but like Fire definitely helps. So that will kind of be covered. But yeah, there is a bit of a nice weakness here for sure.
I think he was actually looking at Terra Captain NDD.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Um, I gave this team an 8.
Oh wow, okay. You believe in it. I gave it a 6.5.
Ooh.
I'm a little lower on this one. Maybe I could have gone higher. I think the score I gave it was before the Driftbloom trade, so maybe I would bump that up to a 7 now. Let's go for it.
Okay. For me,
Driftbloom is worth it.
like I agree. Like the Raichu Pinkerton mode is kind of meh, but I don't think he's gonna be bringing that too often, if honestly, if at all. Because he's just like so much more incentivized to bring Psychic Terrain, and it is just a
Yeah,
C and a D tier pick for fun. So I don't know.
yeah, no, for sure.
I don't think it impacts the
You
draft
can't
that
pick at
much.
you can't pick up D tiers for sure.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Okay. GabMott is up next. I don't know if it's GabMott or GabMott, by the way. I think his name is Gabe, so I'll go with GabMott. Um, okay,
Okay.
so Ursaluna, PZ or P2 rather, and Ensign. Your three A tiers, all weak to fighting. Which is, that's a significant investment on fighting weak Pokemon. I think you do cover for it well in the rest of your picks, where you have Volbeat, um, Gardevoir that are, that and Bruxus that resist fighting, and then Typhlosion that is immune. Um, so yeah, you do help with that, but I think like the Pokemon that you're gonna be having out the most are pretty weak to fighting. Um, this team has, I think, incredible Trick Room and Tailwind with P2 and Volbeat. And I think there's really good offense between Ursaluna, Typhlosion, Gardevoir, even Alolan Executor in Trick Room, and then some stuff you can do with Bastiodon, like setup, um, like a Iron Defense Body Press. Sceptile, I don't really see how it benefits from Unburden on this team unless I'm missing something. Um, Morpeko, I think, is kind of meh and was, it does different stuff from Pachirisu, but I feel like you really only need one of those. Kind of feels like it's just here to have Fake Out, because there isn't Fake Out on this team otherwise. Um, the fact that the offense trends towards 95 speed and below means that if this team is not running Tailwind and you can counter their Trick Room, then it's not that difficult to outspeed. I guess unless like Typhlosion is running Scarf or something, or Gardevoir is running Scarf. Um, I feel like the supports on this team are just kind of okay. Like between Pachirisu, it's like okay, follow me. The Fake
Yeah,
Out is kind
honestly,
of
the
bad.
the the Bruxish plus Pachirisu pick screams, I wanted Indeedee female, but it got sniped, and I wanted priority blocking and follow me. And
Yeah,
honestly, at that point, you kind of have to you kind of have to accept it. And these two supports are really, really, really mid. It feels like you were trying to replace something that really isn't replaceable. So yeah, I don't know. The roll You lose the roll compression. It means that if you want both things, you're locked into running Bruxish and Pachirisu for a match.
yeah,
Um, Not the best. I
yeah.
always respect a more Pico pick. That mon is great at being fun. It's okay. It's okay. Fake out. You can maybe get some value out of it. I don't know if you would pick it as a Terra captain, but so far we've got Typhlosion and Bastiodon, so it's not the case. There is instant fake out though.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, I'm done.
Yeah, so that helps out definitely.
Yeah, for sure. That's way better Fake Out than Morpeko. My bad. My mistake. Um,
Yeah, nah, but it kind of feels like you just have to prep for the top 4 mons or 4 or 5 mons, and you're gonna
yeah,
be fine.
yeah. Honestly, like, I don't think this team is very deep outside of uh Porygon, Ursaluna, Typhlosion, Incin, Guardy, and I guess Volbeat. But yeah, I think those are like strong together. They just share some weaknesses, and if that's what you're gonna be bringing most weeks, then it's pretty predictable. Would like to see the supports be a bit better as well. I gave it a 6.5. Looks like you gave it a 6.
Yeah, I gave it a 6. I was about to give it a 5.5, but then I remembered you have Typhlosion with Volbeat and P2 or Saluna, so
Yeah.
that is like enough damage and offense to definitely take a lot of wins.
No, yeah,
So
it's really good offense, I
let's
would
see it
say.
happen. Yeah.
Okay, one more thing on this team. I think it's very weak to any rain that it will face. You kind of have to bring Volbeat and reverse weather. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. All right, moving on to our second to last drafter, Dodgedixon.
Okay, so I really, really, really like this draft. I think it's really well constructed for an Archaludon team, and it is like very clearly built around that Archaludon. You have the Pelipper, which is arguably the support that Archaludon most likes. You've got Comfy Recovery, you've got Amoonguss Pollen Puff and Redirection, also McMortar Redirection. So just like those top 5 mons, uh, are really funneling this Archaludon into being like a kill leader. That said, it is stacking like a lot of supports. So you are relying on that Archaludon a bit, but we know that that can work. We've seen it before.
Yeah.
And the way he's kind of rounded out the rest of this Rain team is also, I think, pretty solid. I think Gudra is a Rainmon that we don't see very often, but it is very solid. I feel it's very versatile in what it can do.
Which Pokemon did you
It
say?
can soak up Gudra,
Yeah.
because it can soak up any and all special attacks targeted into Archaludon, and it doesn't actually share any weaknesses with it. So really not bad for Double Dragon.
Yeah.
Uh, Toxicroak is solid for a Fake Out Mon that benefits from Rain. Lapras is okay. Zoroark, I don't see you getting like a huge amount of value out of it, but maybe as a Terra Captain and those Terra choices, you will catch some people off guard and pick up early KOs. And yeah, Legion as the secondary, well, I mean, primary rain sweeper here. Obviously, very, very solid.
Yeah. I'm also quite high on this draft. As a Rain core, I think Pelipper, Basculegion, Amoonguss, Archaludon is really interesting. I don't think we've seen that combination of Pokemon in our Reg H draft so far, but I really like it. Um, where you might want to run grass types to be immune to Spore, to take the water type attacks, and take Electro Shot. I think this team actually has decent counterplay to that. Between like you can run Sludge Bomb Amoonguss, Last Respects is still going to be doing a ton of damage into grass types. You have Poison Jab on Toxicroak. If you're not in rain, you can run you can use fire moves with Magmortar, and then you also have Hurricane. And then Goodra gets, I think, Ice Beam and Flamethrower. So there's that. I think Comfey is really good support for this team as well. Like all of
Mm.
the main offense on this team is really bulky, so Comfey's floral healing and just general support is gonna be magnified and amplified. I think the fact that you got like a basically like a bunch of like support offense that also benefits from rain between Toxicroak and Goodra is really fun. Like I actually really like Toxicroak on this team as like a fake out Pokemon because it gets dry skin. I think that's like a really interesting concept here. Um, you will have to contend with Sun, like Manual Sun, and Manual Sun is actually really good into this team. But
Yeah.
I
I
don't
wish there
think
was like some fast like rain dance setter that actually wants to
I
click rain
agree.
dance.
I think that's what this team is missing to me. But I do think that, like, granted you're not in rain, but also not in sun, I think this team is fine, like outside of rain. Um, yeah, just like you said, like would like to see some better counterplay to a sun mode. I guess Magmortar
Yeah.
is here, but that's not enough for me, especially if you're running it as a primarily as a redirector. Um, I think
Yeah.
yeah, I like this draft a lot.
What I'll say as well is speed tiers are okay, but the speed ceiling is not the best.
Yeah,
Zorak being your fastest one at 105 is pretty exploitable, especially not having like any obvious tailwind. I mean, aside from Pelipper, I mean, but it's very slow tailwind. There's no like very good speed control here, so it's kind of the same situation, although
isn't Comfey Tailwind and
not as
Tricker
severe. Oh yeah, it is. Comfy does get tailwind. That is true.
and Tricker, right?
Okay, that definitely helps. Yeah, it gets both.
And then there's also
That
like
helps.
Swift Swim, Basculegion. So there is like
Yeah.
options.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's options. I just feel I wish there was someone faster than Zorak that could set up Rain Dance.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, I'm not a huge fan of like stacking so many poison types and like poison terror as well.
Yeah,
Like I feel like that was too much. Like Toxicroak, yeah, sure. Toxicroak Amoonguss, that's fine, that's cool. But you know that meme, that's enough slices. You gave Terra Poison to Zoroark, you gave Terra Poison to Avalugg, and you picked up D tier Arbok. Like,
yeah.
do you really need poison that badly?
No, I don't think so.
Um, yeah. So yeah, but really solid draft in my opinion. So I gave it an 8 here.
I gave this one a solid 9.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I really like this one. All right, and last but certainly not least, we have Skelebungus. So, um, this is a Sun team. Um,
Yes, it is.
And I think it's a pretty good Sun team. I like Torkoal, Charizard, Lilligant, Farigiraf. I like that core really well. I think that's very strong. That's only two A tiers, and I think it forms a really, really good Sun core. Um, I would say I think the Primarina on this team is a little bit, of a weird fit. Like the fact that you invested such a high pick into like an offensive water type on a Sun team doesn't really make a ton of sense to me. I think if you're not running Sun, it's fine, but this is the primary mode on this team is Sun, so like you invested a ton of picks in making the Sun mode work, so I feel like it's a little bit disjointed. But if you're running like standalone like Farigiraf, Primarina, Trick Room, I think that's fine. Um, Also has pretty good tailwind with Illumise, so the speed control is really solid. There's good fake out with Weavile and good redirection. I mean, decent fake out and decent redirection with Electivire and Weavile. Um, I don't like Greedent is there. I'm not a huge fan of Greedent. I think you kind of really
You
have
know
to
I
like
am.
position it
You know
well.
I am.
I know you are. I know you are. I would just like to see like another um like I don't know, another Trick Room sweeper. Like because if you're running Torkoal and Primarina, it doesn't really work for me. If you're running just Torkoal, then you like to see something else that wants to function in Trick Room aside from Farigiraf. Greedent is there, but it requires a turn of setup, and I don't think it really meshes well with the Sun mode. Unless your Torkoal is taking like 2 KOs and enabling the belly drum setup. But if that's the case, you're probably like already way ahead. So, um, yeah, I don't really see it with Greedent. I think Haunter is cool. Haunter Lucario, like Lucario's cool as well. But I don't think those roles are necessarily needed. Like I don't know if Haunter is like secondary Trick Room or whatever. You
I
also
mean, it gets you're enough sash on it, click Trick Room. It kind of works. But yeah, it's not the best for sure.
Yeah, I mean you kind of already have Farigiraf plus Fake Out plus redirection. So and then Lucario, you just invested in like a B tier fighting type. I don't really get it. Prinplup, I don't. It's good support, but like I don't feel like it's needed on this team. So it has some really good Pokemon. I think really solid cores. But then a few anti synergies, a few mons that I don't really see working together.
Yeah, I also feel like there are some gaps in the speed tiers. It kind of feels like they're too, like they go by steps. You've got two super slow Trickermons, definitely like the slowest in the matchup wherever you're playing. Then you've got a bunch of stuff around 60, Farigiraf and Primarina. Then you've got basically around 90 with Lucario and Haunter, and then the ceiling being around 100, and then Weavile 125. It's okay. It kind of clumps up in a way that can be kind of abusable. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
I feel like this team is pretty well constructed. I just wish there was some sort of redirection. I mean, there's Electivire. I actually missed that. Okay, so you have Electivire, Greedent. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, no, it's okay.
It's pretty decent, I would say overall as a draft.
Yeah,
I give it
but
a
it is true that
Go ahead.
you ate. What did you give it? No, go ahead.
I gave it a 7.5.
Okay, I gave it a 7. I think it's okay. I don't know why people are going Weavile Lucario. I don't feel like it's an actual real threat. I know it's funny because you do like beat up Justified. I just don't think it's very good.
Yeah.
Uh, Charizard. I mean, Sun is very well supported for sure. You've got the Torkoal, and you've got the manual Sunny Day from Illumise. So this is
Yes.
a Sun team that can keep Sun up, which
Right.
is like what we've been talking
Which
about.
is
It's
really
like
good,
you
yeah.
need, yeah, you need this on a like weather team in draft, in my opinion. It's either you don't go like super hard on weather or you do this.
Yes.
Um,
Agreed.
Skelebungus kind of did both, where he picked up Primarina, which, as you said, kind of doesn't fully fit the rest of the squad, but it is a good Trick Room sweeper as well, and Tailwind. Like it works with both. So yeah, pretty solid overall.
Yeah. All right. So are you ready to give us our team rankings?
I am ready. Okay, let's go from the bottom to the top, right?
All right. So again, just to explain, we're averaging the scores that we gave to the 3 players on each team and then rating them from 1 to 10, just based on those
Okay.
averages.
So maybe unsurprisingly, um, the lowest ranked team is Drops' team. I think
Oof.
this is mainly carried by Drops inting his teammates with that super low score. But yeah, that puts him in last place
You're dragging them
for us.
down, man. Come on,
Yeah,
drops. What is the average score?
it's 37.5. I can write it down if you want. I mean, I just added up the points. I
Okay.
didn't actually average.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It works the same way.
Yeah, in ninth place, it's it's Seph's team actually at a 43.5.
Okay.
Next up, it's a tie, three-way tie actually between KD's team at a 44.5, Tarkington, also 44.5,
Okay.
and Carney, also a 44.5, which is surprising given that he had one of the highest scores in A tier. I guess it's I think it's mainly because of Parry's draft not being up to standard, but you know he can fix that for sure.
Yeah.
Next up, it's actually your team. It's Stax at 45.
Ah, man. Only the fifth? Damn.
Yeah.
That's tough.
In fourth place, it's Splatty at 45.5.
Okay.
And now going up to the top three, after Splatty, it's gonna be me, Jude, at 46.
Nice. Top three.
That's pretty good. Drum roll, please. And the top team is Confused,
Nice.
followed by BHanny. So maybe not super surprising. These are very good players, so they had their own very good drafts. But the Confused team in particular is very balanced, where we had Mike also at a super high score, and Tetris at a pretty high score as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, very solid here. I'm just gonna write down. It's a 46.5, and Confused is actually way above everyone else at a 49.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I think everyone is pretty close together aside from drops and I guess now confused. Between second
Yeah,
place 46.5 and ninth place 43.5, only a difference of 3 total points. So I
yeah,
think honestly, like my takeaway from this draft is there's a lot like throughout all the drafts, there's a lot of like really solid drafts that are both maybe like only missing like a couple pieces here and there. Not too many like drafts that are like over the top extremely good. Not too many drafts that are like overwhelmingly bad either.
yeah. So nice job drafting, everyone. Please don't take like our comments too seriously. We are just really uh, like if we gave any suggestions, go ahead, take them, but don't. We don't mean this like to offend anyone. If we said that your draft is bad, it's okay. You can have fun with it. Like it's really not that deep.
Yeah, we were only being truthful about Katie's draft being terrible.
No comment. No comment.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. If you made it through all of this, I appreciate you. We both appreciate you. And yeah, all right, bye.
Bye bye.